on Google Play application. Bet Predict Betting Predictions Tips. Mobi Concept. Fourth video. Dear bettors. This is a special video on our analyze of mobile apps that can be accessed free of charge from Google Play and which recommend bettors for specific betting tips. Please take a look at previous videos from our YouTube channel named Analyzing Football Betting Tips app on Google Play, to find out our analysis of 28 apps which are the most popular for users. In this our YouTube channel, we focus mainly on analyzing the profitability of these applications, but of course real profitability is very closely related to whether the application is trying to fraudulently manipulate betting tips that it recommends to bettors. We have found a very positive fact that none of these applications have done any sort of manipulation of the types or results of the tips. We've found only 3 poorly evaluated tips during 2 months, but these errors can be considered as unintentional mistakes of administrators of these apps. Unfortunately, we have found that there is one application in our selection that behaves completely unethically, as it fraudulently manipulates the history of its tips. This app is Bet Predict Betting Predictions Tip Mobi Concept. Here you can see the start page of this application and the next page where the user can choose where to go. On this page you can see that the user can choose from 4 sequels. Daily Predicts section usually includes the tips to the winner of the match at the halftime or at the end of the matches. HTFD Predicts section combines usually tips for a halftime draw with the draw at the end of the match. Section Under/Over Predicts includes tips for the total number of goals in the game, usually the tip over 2.5. Section Old Predicts shows the history of tips of this application. When you install this app and see it very quickly, then you can feel that you have finally found some cool app that has a very interesting tipping strategy, because it puts into its 2 groups named Daily Predicts and Under/Over Predicts betting tips with an average odd of about 2.0, and a third group of the bets named HTFD Predicts gives tips with an average odd of about 4.0. And if you take a quick look at the history of this app, then it confirms that it's profitable every day, even in tips with odds higher than 4.0. But what is the reality? A friend of ours, an inexperienced bettor, was lured and placed a bet of $100 on all 11 of the betting odds on one day. What was his unpleasant disappointment when he found out that he only won 2 games overall and ended up with a $700 loss. So let's ask why he lost so much when the history of the tips he found in this app was so great. Was it unfortunate that this day was so exceptionally unsuccessful than the previous months? In this video, we'll show that he wasn't out of luck, but the reason is the fraudulent behavior of this app. What this app did trickily: it fraudulently manipulates the history of its results in 2 ways. It includes in its history only those days in which it was profitable. It does not include in its history all failed tips. So let's now look at how administrators from Mobi Concept proceed concretely in February and from early March to today. First, let's take a look at the exact copy of the history that this app shows about your betting tips from the beginning of March 2019 to today. Pay particular attention to the dates that gradually appear there during March. Surely you noticed that the administrator of the Mobi concept forgot to write history. The 1st of March, the 3rd of March, the 4th of March, the 5th of March, the 15th of March, the 16th of March, the 19th of March, the 21st of March. Since the moment we shoot this video is March 24, 2019, there were no more gaps in March batting history until now. So they forgot write the history of 8 days from 23 days. There are many gaps, don't you? Why do you think the administrator forgot to include all these days in history? So let's take a closer look at what batting tips during the March Mobi concept offered each day and how these tips were really successful. We will also show here the second scam that this app does, which is keeping some of its failed betting tips. Here you can see our detailed overview of all the matches that Mobi concept apps recommended the tips from the beginning of March until March 23, 2019. You see here every match. The recommended batting tip by Mobi concept. Betting odd in bet 365 for this batting opportunity. Whether tip was profitable or loss-making. Cumulative profit or loss from the beginning of the month. And total daily profit or loss. Previously mentioned columns contain the correct real data, but beyond the horizontal thick black line you see what fraudulently applications from the Mobi concept do with their history every day. On the last line in the fixed header you can see the real total loss of this app from March to today, which is minus 14.34, and in the fraudulent part it can be seen that if it were true what Mobi concept puts in the history, then it would have been in profit 39.41. That's a really big difference, isn't it? So let's take a closer look at the recommended betting tips in this app and what the app has fraudulently put into its history. We have highlighted in black the lines of batting tips that Mobi concept has included in its history. For example, when we look at March 2nd, we see that in fact the Mobi concept was successful in 6 tips out of a total of 10 tips. However, the app only reported 2 losses from its total of 4 losses in its history, therefore apps fraudulently increased its daily profit from 6.07 to 8.07. We highlighted in yellow similarly all missed losses in all cells of the penultimate column. You will notice that this fraudulent procedure would make this application profitable every day in March, so we cannot be surprised that there was such a big difference between a real loss minus 14.34 and a tremendous huge profit 39.41. Thus, for the fraudulent depiction of the profitability, the Mobi concept is not sufficient to include only some of the more successful days in its history, but it also deletes some unsuccessful tips from those days. We have shown you how fraudulently Mobi concept creates its history, so be very careful if you decide to use its tips for your real betting. We've come to the end of this special video and you can look forward to the next video in this YouTube channel on results of analyzed applications in March 2019.